And on the road to Barcelona, there's a lot of talk about shifting business models for technology suppliers as market trends migrate towards enterprise customers. Mike Collado, Vice President of Marketing at SOLiD, is in our studio to begin talking about these trends and how technology leaders can pivot to verticals with higher and longer returns. And Mike, welcome to the program.
Abe, great to be with you here in the TIA Now studios at TIA headquarters.
Well, thanks for being here. The last time we spoke, we were at an event, I think in early September. We had a chance to talk about a number of things. The Middleprise was one of those coined terms by SOLiD. We're going to get into that in just a moment. But for our viewers, can you just give us a quick synopsis of what SOLiD does?
Sure. So, Abe, SOLiD's in the business of keeping people connected and safe in a rapidly changing world through a portfolio of RF amplifier, RF radio, and optical transport solutions. That roughly translates into we're a manufacturer of DAS, small cell, front haul for CRAN, and backhaul for base station hoteling and small cell deployments.
Mike, as you know, your technologies and solutions advance at a very, very quick pace. Even since our last discussion in November, a lot of things have changed. What are some of those changes?
A lot of things have changed. For SOLiD itself, the U.S. operation, which was the responsible for the marketing, sales, distribution, and servicing of DAS equipment for SOLiD in the U.S. market. We've been acquired very recently. This is exciting because North America is really the launch pad for the DAS industry, with North America being the largest market segment. It's a win for the customers and partners within North America. It now has access to the broader portfolio of SOLiD solutions, including the optical transport solutions. It's a win for the global markets in that we're able to leverage the successes in North America and transfer the technology, strategies, and business models that we've had success in a proving ground here in North America and translate those into global markets. So it's a very exciting time for us.
Mike, you've spent a lot of time, not only at SOLiD, but at previous companies, focusing on legacy markets, if you will, carriers, in SOLiD's case, maybe implementation and deployment in stadiums and conference centers, large buildings. Now a real clear shift to something that you call the Middleprise, hospitals, hospitality buildings, office buildings. Can you tell us about that shift?
Yeah, well, that's another thing that's shifted pretty dynamically since we last talked. When we last talked about the Middleprise is something we define as the middle enterprise. It's the segment of buildings having between 100 to 500,000 square feet. Another way of looking at the Middleprise, it's the line of demarcation where the wireless operators, the carriers, are not going to fund the in-building systems anymore. And as you had mentioned, it comprises of things like hospitals and hotels, higher education campus buildings, and Class A office space. And that Middleprise market is taking off fairly rapidly.
Mike, there's trends towards the Middleprise, but also towards, and this is something we talked about back in November, edge densification. Can you elaborate on that a little bit for us?
Sure, Abe. Well, the Tier 1 market still is viable. I mean, that's the market that we've chased after for the last 10 years in this industry. That's comprised of the large public venues, stadia, and mass transit spaces. The Middleprise is definitely, as that market reaches further saturation, the Middleprise is definitely where the industry is going to be focused on. But there's another market segment that we're referring to as edge densification. And edge densification really refers to the place where the carrier stops delivering coverage and capacity. And so in our world, we view edge densification as delivering coverage and capacity from the edge of the core carrier network to the pole or to the building and to the handset itself. And so that's a more expansive way of looking at in-building or outdoor DAS or small cell deployments, but it also includes the transport, the ability to bring and deliver coverage and capacity to closer to where the handsets are. And that's going to be, I think, a really important market segment, and that's what we'll be talking about at our display at Mobile World Congress.
Mike, let's stay on the topic of trends and really talk about your customer base. You have your legacy customers, carriers fall into that bucket, but now you have your Middleprise customers. Can you give us sort of some insight into that trend and how that's evolving?
Well, Abe, the go-to-market's going to be different. So the tier one or the legacy market will remain. It's still a viable space. There's still lots of business opportunities out there, and that's the business go-to-market where you're selling and servicing the carrier or the third-party owner, like a Crown Castle or an Extenet or a Boingo. The Middleprise, however, is very different. The owner, the stakeholders are going to be different in that who funds it will be a different stakeholder. We believe it's probably going to be the third-party owners. We believe the enterprise itself is probably going to help fund these. We believe that there's an opportunity for value-added resellers, VARs. Some of those that are well capitalized could become what I refer to as super VARs, that as opposed to really not only just selling and running these projects, but also funding and owning the projects. So we're kind of in this interesting in-between process or period in the industry where you're still servicing the legacy market, but at the same time you're transitioning and changing your technology toolkit and your business models in order to turn up and support this new and emerging space called the Middleprise.
Let's go a step further on that. That's interesting what you just said. Can you illustrate for us and our audience the inherent challenges, maybe with a deployment and implementation of your technologies in a stadium as opposed to a Middleprise customer?
Sure. Today's the conventional DAS systems are optimized, and the business models, both the technology and the business models are optimized for that large space. So the cost per square foot is different. The ownership is different. The way you design and deploy them is different. So that's a model that the industry is very comfortable with. The Middleprise, as we talked about, you've got because of different ownership and different requirements and different size buildings. Really, conventional DAS and conventional small cell doesn't translate well into it. So the technology needs to evolve. The technology, first of all, from a price point, needs to come down. It needs to be a lower cost per square foot for the entire project. It needs to make what I like to call the difficult things easier, from designing and deploying, commissioning, managing and monitoring the system. That needs to be easier. You think Apple, it needs to be significantly easier. From a business model perspective, once again, cost, you've got different ownership involved. From an infrastructure perspective, you want to try to do more with existing infrastructure within the building. And in the Middleprise, public safety is going to potentially play more of a starring or a more important role in terms of venue owners, building owners needing to comply with municipal public safety codes. So radically very different ways of approaching it, and which is why I think we're going to see different stakeholders dropping out of the Middleprise, changing their game, or new stakeholders emerging in that space.
Now, Mike, as you know, your team and the TIA team, amongst about 90,000 other attendees, will be at the largest mobile wireless show on the planet in just a couple of weeks. What do you expect to see at the show, maybe that you didn't see last year?
I think from a large theme perspective, we're gonna continue to advance the discussion around 5G. There's certain operators that will be deploying 5G in various test beds and looking at large global events in the coming years. So certainly it's going to be a full diet of 5G. Internet of Things, which is a space that SOLiD's closely studying with our acquisition late last year of Pantech, which is the third largest smartphone manufacturer in South Korea. Pantech also brings to the SOLiD portfolio M2M IoT modules. So it's a space that we, with our existing portfolio and the new portfolio from Pantech, are studying very closely. It's going to be an important space. So certainly we'll hear a lot about IoT. And then the other component, I think, large theme we'll see at Mobile World Congress will be unlicensed spectrum. Is how do you use unlicensed spectrum to solve some of the capacity challenges that we're throughout the world, certainly in North America, starting to see? How does that play into the portfolios?
Mike, we'll have a couple of discussions over there, over the pond, if you will, in Barcelona. We will be sure to use the word Middleprise, if that's okay with you.
And use edge densification as well. That's what we'll be showcasing in our stand. We're in Hall 7, stand G81. Some of the things that we'll be showcasing again are the Pantech M2M IoT modules. We'll be showcasing our optical transport, which again applies very well for base station hoteling, small cell deployment, as well as CRAN for front haul for CRAN, and of course our DAS solutions for indoor and outdoor DAS. One of the things that we're featuring this year that I think is really cool and invite the attendees to come out and see us is the SOLiD theater, where we'll be presenting on some of these solutions and case studies as well. So we'll look forward to seeing you there.
Yeah, we're looking forward to seeing you as well, Mike.
Safe travels. Good seeing you as always.
You too.